The first pain wakes you before dawn. You say nothing at first. You breathe, and you wait, and you count. For almost all of human history, what comes next will be the single most dangerous day of your life. More dangerous than famine. More dangerous than plague. More dangerous than any war your village will ever see. And you will face it in a room with no doctor in it. You are a woman in medieval Europe. You are about to give birth. And almost everything you think you know about that moment is wrong. You picture filth, ignorance, a screaming woman and helpless hands. But what was that room really like? The medieval birth chamber was not chaos. It was a carefully controlled world, run entirely by women, with its own rules, its own experts, and its own deep knowledge, passed down by people history almost forgot to write down. Start with the experts. Childbirth was not a man's domain. A male physician would rarely, if ever, enter that room. The woman in charge was the midwife, and the historian Monica Green has spent her career recovering just how much these women knew. Green translated a remarkable set of medieval texts, known as the Trotula, a collection on women's medicine that circulated across Europe for 400 years. Its core was tied to a real woman, Trotula of Salerno, a female healer in 12th century Italy who wrote about labor, pain relief, and complications at a time when most people assume women had no medical voice at all. So what did they actually do? When your labor began, the women came, not doctors. Your mother, your sisters, your neighbors, the experienced women of your community, sometimes called your gossips, a word that then simply meant the women who gathered around a birth. They sealed the room. Windows shuttered, keyholes stopped. The space kept warm and dim. To them, this was medicine. Protect the mother from cold air and disturbance. To you, lying there, it meant something else. You were not alone. Every woman in that room had either done this or watched it done. You would not give birth lying flat. You would labor upright, kneeling, squatting, or seated on a birthing stool, a low wooden chair with an open seat, letting gravity help. The midwife rubbed your belly with warm oils. She talked you through each wave. And around you, the room filled with objects meant to do what medicine could not yet do, to keep you safe. One of those objects was the birth girdle. This was a long strip of parchment, sometimes printed with prayers and the image of Saint Margaret of Antioch, the patron saint of childbirth, wrapped around the laboring body like a holy belt. For years, scholars assumed these were purely symbolic, too precious to actually use. Then, in 2021, a research team led by Sarah Fiddyment studied one surviving English birth girdle. They found traces of honey, milk, and human fluids consistent with active use in labor. These were not decorations. Women wore them, women gripped them, and prayed into them, while their bodies did the most dangerous work a body can do. And here is the twist most people get completely wrong. You might assume medieval women died in childbirth because they were ignorant, because they lacked doctors, hospitals, and science. But the midwives were doing very nearly everything that could be done. The thing that actually killed mothers was invisible. It was infection, bacteria no one could see and no one knew existed, carried by unwashed hands into a body that had just opened itself to the world. Obstructed labor with no safe surgery killed too. And no prayer, no herb, no knowledge anyone possessed for another 600 years could stop either one. How do we know ignorance was not the real enemy? Look at what happened next. When male physicians later began entering the birth chamber, and when the first lying-in hospitals opened centuries afterward, deaths did not fall. In many places they rose, because doctors moved from sickbed to sickbed carrying infection on their hands, into mothers who would have been safer at home with a midwife. Childbirth did not truly become safe until the 1800s and 1900s, when people finally understood hand-washing, germs, and antiseptics. The medieval mother was not failing at something simple. She was facing something no one on earth yet knew how to beat. So picture her again, the dim, warm room, the circle of women, the wooden stool, the warm oils, the parchment belt, the whispered prayer to Saint Margaret. It was not barbaric. It was the most advanced care one human being could give another in the year 1300, and it was given almost entirely by women, for women, in a room men were not invited to enter. Now think about your own world. Today, you will almost certainly survive childbirth. Monitors track every heartbeat. A maternal death is now rare enough to make the news. This is one of the quietest miracles of modern life, and you should never forget how new it is. But ask a new mother what she remembers, and many will not describe the machines. They describe feeling surrounded by strangers, alone in a crowd. The one thing the medieval chamber had in abundance, a circle of women who had all survived this and who held the room together, is the very thing the modern world has quietly taken away. The first pain wakes you before dawn. Only now, you will almost certainly live to feel the next one. The world has never been kinder to that moment, or lonelier inside it.